basis. If you want to speak under the public hearing or privilege of the floor, there are sign-up sheets that are at the entranceway. You see people waiting there. If you do not sign the sheet, you will not be allowed to speak. So again, for anybody who's new, please make sure that you sign up to speak if that's what you want. And I will remind you again, you have 4 minutes. At around 3.5 minutes, you'll see my hand go up, and you should wrap up your comments, okay? Thank you. Excuse me. I'd like to call the June 12th, 2024 Town Board meeting to order. Ms. Marco, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Dobson is absent.
Mr. Mastriani?
Present.
Mrs. Galucci?
Present.
Mr. Schlag?
Present.
And Mrs. Collins?
Present.
4 present and 1 absent.
Thank you, Ms. Marco. A quorum is present. Mr. Schlag, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight we have a presentation from the Rotterdam Police Department. So I'd like Chief Brown, Deputy Chief Mayo, and Patrolman Noah Heath to come up to the front, please.
Madam Supervisor and board members, thank you for the opportunity to recognize one of our officers tonight. Tonight we come together to honor and recognize a police officer whose quick thinking, professionalism, and dedication to duty have undoubtedly saved lives and protected our community. In the course of their duties, the men and women of the Rotterdam Police Department face many challenges and uncertainties. They often find themselves in situations where split-second decisions can mean the difference between life and death. Successful outcomes in these moments should be recognized. During a stop, Officer Keith demonstrated extraordinary courage and presence of mind. Through his investigation, he discovered a loaded handgun equipped with a high-capacity magazine containing 29 rounds of ammunition, a potentially deadly weapon that posed an imminent threat to public safety. Without hesitation, Officer Keith took swift and decisive action, ensuring the immediate removal of the weapon and defusing the imminent threat the weapon posed. His actions of safely intercepting this dangerous weapon also prevented it from being used in a potential tragedy in our community. On behalf of myself and our community, I extend my sincere gratitude in your exceptional service, and I'm honored to present you with the department's foundational work. I'm just going to read the certificate. On May 23rd, Officer Noah Keith conducted a traffic stop on a known vehicle that had been involved in several gasoline larcenies from stewards. Officer Keith observed the occupants of the vehicle making furtive movements prior to approaching the vehicle. Based on his interviews with the occupants of the vehicle, Officer Keith became suspicious and removed each occupant from the vehicle for further investigation. While speaking with the rear seat passenger, Officer Keith observed him to be grabbing at his front waistband. Through his training and experience, Officer Keith recognized this movement consistent with someone concealing a weapon or contraband. A subsequent search of the male passenger yielded a loaded Glock handgun with a high-capacity magazine containing 29 rounds of ammunition. Officer Keith demonstrated unique intelligence, aptitude, and dedication, and should be commended for removing an illegal handgun from the community.
Also tonight, we'll be hiring another police officer to join our ranks. First I need a resolution number 258 of the year 2024. Clerk will read.
To appoint a police officer?
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Galucci, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Schlag. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson's absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes and 1 absent.
Resolution passes.
Good evening and welcome. Today is a special day as we officially welcome and swear in a new police officer who has chosen a noble profession, one that requires courage, integrity, and a commitment to serving and protecting our community. This ceremony marks the beginning of his career with the Rotterdam Police Department, and we are honored to witness this milestone in his life. Before us stands as Keith Lewick, who has served over 13 years of military experience and was formerly a supervisory police officer and security forces journeyman with the New York National Guard. He brings with him a wealth of knowledge, leadership experience, and an unwavering dedication to law enforcement in his role as a supervisory police officer. Today we welcome you into our ranks and acknowledge your pledge to serve with integrity and honor. I'll left hand on Bible, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Keith Lewick,
Do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of police officer
of the office of police officer
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
And again, I noticed some new people coming in. If somebody wants to talk, are the still out there, Randy? So if anybody who just came in during any of the ceremonies, if you do wish to speak, you have to sign the sign-in sheet or you will not be able to speak. Okay? All right. We'll now open public hearing number 1. The clerk will read.
For receipt of comment on the proposed introductory local law blank of 2024 to amend Chapter 270 zoning of the Town Code to repeal the existing solar energy facilities law, local number 1 of the year 2017, and related site plan fees, Chapter 270-137.1A1, and for the adoption of an updated solar energy facilities law.
Ms. Marco, is there anyone who wishes to speak?
Andrea Capola.
Andrea Capola, 625 River Road. I'm here tonight to ask you to please pass this resolution, or whatever it's going to be. The people on the Energy Committee worked diligently and hard. They turned over rocks. They investigated anything and everything that's in this document. And I know it's lengthy. I know it's stringent, but it's not without merit, and it really helps and protects our town. So please, 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 pass it. Thank you.
Scott Quinn.
Hello, my name is Scott Quinn, 1141 Upper Greg Road. Full disclosure, I'm also on the Rotterdam Conservation Committee. I feel this is a very important legislation that needs to be passed. It's long overdue. There's a lot of pressures on a town the size of Rotterdam We have limited open space, and, you know, I think this property would be among Petersburg, and the area around it is very vital to the history and of the area, and needs to be preserved in a much more thoughtful way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Candace Canal?
Hi there. I'm not speaking on my own behalf tonight. I'm speaking for my neighbor, Joanne Darling. She lives on Rhinex Corners Road. She had planned on being here, but was delayed, and she asked me to read her thoughts. Dear Town Board, I am thankful to every person who contributed hours to create the Town of Rotterdam's proposed comprehensive solar code. I found it carefully and thoughtfully crafted, purposefully keeping with the nature and character of our town. The details included in the system's operation and safety provision that provide for continued maintenance and an emergency operations plan should deliver some peace to our residents, provided they are properly executed. The provisions providing increased setbacks of 500 feet for Tier 4 and safety provisions for private wells is a positive protection, as well as the requirements for screening to reduce visual impact of an array. The provision regarding pilot requiring the agreement benefit the town and school districts, as well as requiring shared responsibility of both landowner and owner of the array, is also reassuring. There is plenty more to like in this solar code, and I urge our town to adopt it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy Burrell?
Hi, everybody. Thanks. Wow, what a crowd. This is great. I own a farm called Peaceful Acres. It is located in both the town of Rotterdam, where there's about 100 acres of land, and also in the town of Princetown. Now, that farm is really special to me, but it's also special to a lot of people, and is known nationally. Actually, it's known internationally for some of the work that we've done for people and also for horses. So I'm a social worker, and I'm also a life coach, and I work with amazing people to partner rescued horses with people with cancer, veterans, children, a lot of kids, referred to our organization from larger organizations within Schenectady County and the Capital Region. My farm is beautiful. I bought it because it's in a beautiful location, it's peaceful, and it's safe. And the work that we have done has really transformed and saved people's lives. I know that if this solar project goes on and the building happens for, say, 2 years, my business will go out of business. Now, I'm just one of the property owners that's going to be affected. I've got 70 horses. I call my farm their safe home. We require good, clean water. We require a safe environment. For 2 years of tractor trailers and clear cutting, 100 acres or more of land, that's going to put our neighbors at risk, the seniors at risk, it's going to put children at risk, and it's going to put my horses at risk. I'm concerned about what we're going to do to the beauty of Schenectady County that we will never get back. I love my neighbors. I've met them all. Like, through this process, I've met people that I never had the opportunity to meet before. Some of those people working on the comprehensive plan. I support that plan. They've done a really great job. I hope Princetown will follow suit and take that plan as well. So I'm against the solar. I'm all for it for homes, and individuals want to do it, I'm all for it. But let's not have a global energy company lease or own our land here in Schenectady County to do this devastation. Thanks.
Thank you.
Linda Spalding?
Chairperson Collins, thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Linda Spalding, and my address is 4140 Rhinex Corners Road in Pattersonville. My husband and I have lived here for more than 28 years and raised our 2 children here. While I understand and appreciate that the proposed solar energy facilities law is intended to retain the rural character of the western portion of the town, I am concerned about the ever-increasing impacts of climate change caused by fossil fuel energy. By prohibiting Tier 5 solar energy facilities capable of producing over 25 megawatts, the proposed law would effectively eliminate solar farm proposals of 150 or more acres, thus preserving the rural nature of western Rotterdam. But I am afraid that the proposed law is overly restrictive and would stifle or even eliminate the development of Tier 3 and Tier 4 solar projects that would not impact the rural character of western Rotterdam. It is unlikely that Rotterdam's own solar farm at the bottom of Rhinex Corners Road would have been allowed under the proposed law. In looking to the future, the restrictive provisions of the proposed law may put Rotterdam at a severe disadvantage with respect to other towns who welcome solar facilities. Those towns, and not ours, would reap the benefits from solar projects of lower taxes for their residents and local job opportunities. I hope that when the draft is finalized, the most restrictive of its provisions will be deleted, and that the town gives itself discretion to make exceptions to the law depending on the particular nature of the solar project proposed. Does the town of Rotterdam want to remain competitive with neighboring towns in building for the future, for encouraging growth and development? If so, we need to welcome solar energy projects. Thank you very much.
Randall Terosian.
Brenda Trojan, Rotterdam. Why are we having this public hearing? Seriously. If anybody has watched any of these proceedings in the last 2.5 years, you know what this board is going to vote tonight. It's a done deal. As much as people don't want, as much as there are people that say we don't want it, we need to be competitive, this board, I'll guarantee every single one of you people, they're going to vote, let's do this law. So why are we having a public hearing? Somebody's got to answer why. Because you're going to vote yes. You're going to vote yes. This law, overly regulated. I mean, I thought the Republican Party, this town board, was against over-regulating the town. You want to stop solar because a few people complained. So let's make a law. Let's change. But you didn't have a problem because it's gonna affect the way Rotterdam looks. But you didn't have a problem. This board, when people came here and spoke against changing the zoning laws on High Bridge Road, so they can have, so you guys can tell Stuart to come out and end. And that was easy that night. All 5 of you could have voted no, could have voted it down. The people came here. The people came and they said, we don't want it there. Did you guys listen? Did you listen? Again, you're going to listen. 20 million people can come up here tonight and say, we want that law repealed or part of it. And you know what's going to happen? Because I've been doing this for 2.5 years. You're voting yes for this. And kind of not listening to the residents. And it's sad. Not only that, but I presume this property is owned by a Rotterdam resident or residents. And you're taking their right away from selling their property to whoever they would like to sell it to. Because it's not convenient for you guys. Well, the person who owns that property wants to sell it, and they can't. Because you put so many restrictions that it makes it impossible. Who the hell wants to come to Rotterdam and invest in Rotterdam when they got to pay an arm and a leg just to come here? Whether you're for or against solar, that's not the point. This is a done deal, and I want everybody here to know, this board, when they get done tonight, and if I'm wrong, you guys can yell at me. They're going to vote yes, right down party line. I know 2 of them are going to vote yes, with no problem. You keep looking at me, you keep smirking at me, you're not listening to the residents of Rotterdam.
Jim Sullivan?
I always keep forgetting that.
Hi, Jim Sokol, 3764 Rhinex Corners Road. I just wanted to speak to the deforestation that's going to happen at the 100 acres that's just up the hill from our farm, Peaceful Acres Horses. I don't know if you've ever seen deforestation, but it's pretty brutal. Everything is killed within that 100 acres, and everything that's not killed is displaced. And unfortunately, that's going to directly affect our farm, which is less than a mile away from where this is happening. Deforestation is not a gentle process. It's basically a slash, burn, hack, kill process. So, the addition of solar in upstate New York, cloudy upstate New York, I'm not sure why people think that really makes sense. I think the percentage of solar gain or solar usage for the first half of this year is right around 8%. Okay, because we've had way many cloudy days than we have sunny days because it's upstate New York and the Mohawk Valley. So anyone who thinks that putting solar up here it makes sense is delusional, to be honest. So the fact that our farm is going to have to deal with the water runoff and animal displacement and all the impact from it, that directly affects me and our animals and our land. So, and yes, I do agree there are property rights that need to be adhered to until those property rights or those decisions affect the people in that area. Then it has to come to a vote. It has to be a community decision, not an individual decision. And that's where we're at. Okay, this isn't about granting someone individual rights. This is about taking care of our community, and that forest and the properties around that area are the community, okay, not the individual. So that's where I stand. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Kyle Quinn, 807 Sanborn Road. Just want to speak on behalf of the new solar code and why it's important to me. I've been a Rotterdam resident for 34 years now. Never left, moved a couple roads down, bought property, worked hard for it. Wanted to, kind of be out, isolated a little bit, not, different. Some people like living a little different. I like living away from everybody and the privacy and, and nature. And my wife has horses and we have animals that we care dearly for. And when you think of living somewhere, you know, you can imagine a house being built next to you. You know, you don't, you know, for me, I'd be like, you know, I wouldn't want a house there, but if it happened, it happened. You don't think of getting a phone call saying you're gonna have a industrial-sized substation 80 feet away from your garage, 100 feet away from your horse barn, a couple hundred feet away from your house, that there's nothing you can do about, because you don't own the property, which you understand. But again, buying a property out in the country, you're not planning on something like that happening. You buy a house next to an industrial park, you can see something like that happening. The code to me is very important because it adjusts setbacks, it tests water wells. You know, we're starting a family, you know, health is a very important thing to me. And I know, again, I'm a Rotterdam resident and I followed this whole process the entire way. And from what I gather, they took a lot of, you know, we talk about other, you know, counties and towns around us. They use bits and pieces of other towns like Glenville that already modified their codes and made them work and fit with our comprehensive plan in our town. And I think that's a great way to move forward, and I think that is working within the county and taking into account our neighbors and everybody else. So I support it 100%, and thank you.
Would you like to send an email? Does she want me to read this, or is it because you came and she doesn't?
She could,
It's up to you. Like I
yeah,
said.
you can read it.
Okay,
that's fine.
I just
Yeah.
want to make sure
Yeah.
because of the same name. Thank
Yep,
you.
thank you.
John Hildebrand?
I just signed up for just in case.
I'm sorry?
I signed up for just in case I wanted to be covered.
So do you want to speak or no?
Not really, but I...
Oh, no, you don't have to. I just, you're on the list, so I have to call your name, but if you don't.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm on Upper Greg Road, John Hildebrand, and I love peacefulness, and I wait all winter to see him white and then brown, and when the green comes around, I love that green color. And to see a black panel for the rest of my life, which isn't very much longer, I really support the bill. I like seeing the nature the way it is.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a Laura Lumra, you did not state the subject. Do you want to talk on the public hearing or for something else?
Something else.
Is it the zoning?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay. So now I have some emails that I have to read. This is from Samantha Quinn. I'm a Rotterdam resident and I have read and support the solar code as written. It is comprehensive, covering private home solar to utility scale installations. It differentiates utility installations for industrial zoning versus agricultural and rural and residential with different setbacks which are appropriate to the zoning. For utility scale, the well water testing will provide residents with private wells some protection for contamination from solar panel components which contain known carcinogens such as cadmium. For utility scale solar facilities outside the industrial zones, the setbacks will give non-participating properties some protection from the noise of tracking panels, inverters, and substations, as well as a buffer for potential fires. The screening requirements will provide some visual buffer as opposed to the 2-foot trees planted in surrounding area solar arrays. The utility scale solar project on 160 in Pattersonville validates the call for utility scale not being allowed on both sides of the road. A worker was struck by a car and required an airlift to Albany Medical Center while crossing the road from one array to another on an ATV. The screening on that project also supports the screening as outlined in the code. The 2-foot vegetation does not provide any screening at that site. The code brings some financial benefit to the town as opposed to payment in lieu of taxes. The code gives merit to and supports the Rotterdam Comprehensive Plan, which specifically calls for the residents' desire to maintain the rural character of the western portion of the town. The code will protect the rural area from solar saturation. I urge this board to accept and implement this solar code into a law as written to protect the residents and the first responders. Respectfully submitted, Samantha Quinn, 807 Sanborn Road. This is from Jeff Ricciardi. Diane, I am writing in support of the town board to pass the adoption of the updated solar law as I could not attend the meeting tonight. As a neighbor of a proposed facility on Sanborn Road, I feel it is needed as more and more of these sites are popping up around us. With the federal and state funding quickly pushing these facilities through, it seems environmental impact is not being reviewed thoroughly. As I myself have a water well 100 feet from the property line of proposed site, this law addresses the issues that could affect the town and neighboring residents to these sites. Reading the details of the draft, it covers all of the concerns and risks that these solar sites pose. I can see this group work diligently on this. Thank you, Jeff Ricciardi, 293 Sanborn Road. Jean Brown, remarks for the Polar Law public meeting June 12th. As a landowner and resident taxpayer within 1,500 feet of proposed location for the industrial solar site on Crawford Road, Winex Corners Road, and Sanborn Roads, I cannot express my total disapproval for the destruction that will prevail if ever consummated. Leaving the area of beautiful green into a heap of plastic and metal is devastating. The value of our homes and property will take a major hit for resale. You have no compassion for the local residents except for profit. How are you financially supporting the hours spent on us? Does it come from big money businesses or loans, grants from my federal, state taxes, which all of us pay? Just this past spring, I had one big black bear and 7 deer on my property without any construction. However, the property on Route 160 is not completed yet. God knows how many more animals are on the run from their normal areas. I guess you are behind caring for nature's animals. Our roads have been destroyed from a major project on the Reinex Corners power lines this past year. The drainage from many underground veins of water and on a very old 2-lane town road maintained by county just doesn't handle the normal increased traffic from many additional home owners. Probably the town nor county highway departments will be compensated for any damages. These old county roads were not built many, many years ago to handle these projects. I did read the new code being voted on tonight. Upon reading the code, I was very impressed by the details protecting private wells, visual impact, glare, buffers, lighting, fencing, including animals not above 1,000 elevation requirement, and protecting first responders and more. Our rural living lifestyle should not be destroyed by solar energy power, ever. Solar power panels should not impact another human being on an hourly or daily basis. I am definitely recommending all board members adopt the replacement code as written for solar energy facilities, which is in line with the Town of Rotterdam Comprehensive Plan. Name us just one subject in your life that gives an inner peace on a daily basis. Myself and all the other people in this area have enjoyed God's beauty in this country setting for many years. Come look at the view, then you will understand what it means to us. Hopefully it will continue without destruction. Sincerely, Jean Brown. Let me just make sure because there's so much here.
Yes.
I believe I've had everyone for the public hearing that signed up.
I'll entertain a motion to keep the public hearing open. I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Schlott. On the question, no, I'm sorry, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
No.
Mrs. Galucci?
No.
Mr. Schlad?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
2 yes, 2 no.
It doesn't pass.
Correct.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
I would just like to inform the board that the board cannot actually vote on this resolution tonight. You cannot vote on passing or rejecting this because the planning board still has yet to get their report and recommendation to the board, and it is a legal requirement that we must complete before the law itself. So that is why we are voting to hold the public hearing open.
But it was 2-2, so what's that mean?
Take another vote in light of
If
the...
somebody would like to introduce another vote.
I'll make another motion to keep the public hearing open. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Slide. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson's absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlad?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent. It will be kept open.
We'll now move on to privilege of the floor.
I just had a... All right, let's see what we got here. Mike Sapiri.
Good evening, Mrs. Collins, Ms. Markle, City Clerk, board members. I just have a couple positive things I'd like to say. My first positive thing I'd like to talk about is Mr. Lamarca. I believe that's the highway supervisor. I want to thank him. I think he's here. I want to thank him for all his work. Every time we have an issue on going down Hungry Hill, there's a wooded area there. And every time I call him, as busy as these guys are, they always come out and they take care of it. How much we appreciate that. Thank you very much for your work. I know you're always tied up, but thank you. I'd like to also thank Mrs. Collins and her secretary, Megan. I call a lot with issues, and I want to thank you for always being there for me and the residents that we deal with and I talk to. We know you're busy. We know you have a lot on your plate, and it's difficult in your positions that you are in. Thank you. Mrs. Markle, thank you for all you do. I call you. You always jump on my issues. I thank you. And my last closing remark is, of course, I cannot go without mentioning what's dear to my heart is the police. To Chief Brown, to Assistant Chief Mail, and to all his officers. I do neighborhood watch off Hungry Hill. I've been a property owner there for 21 years. Every time I call them, they come. Every time I call them and I don't get them, they return my calls. I can't tell you how dear they are to me and what they mean to me. And God bless them for all they do and how they keep us safe. And that's it. Thank you for your board members too. God bless you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, my name is Mike Rourke, 165 Cunns Road. I'm in Broad Albin, but I own land on Renix Corners Road. I was introduced to this law from my friend Dave Bills, and he put me in touch with Kim. As a board member in the town of Broad Albin, I've introduced your law. We've been in the moratorium for a year and a half. I was part of the author. I was one of the authors of the law, and I went to the town board. And last night I asked for an extension so we can incorporate what you have in your law with the hard work that your committee did and everybody. You're closing a lot of the loopholes. We had 12 pages. And all your information there is going to make our town safer where we can represent the residents. And also, too, people speak of people's rights to do what they want with their own property. That's wonderful. That's great, and I think they should be able to. But when it devalues people's property next to them, it takes away their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness on their property, that's not right. We have a comprehensive plan that speaks of intrusive development. And that's exactly what solar is intrusive development. I sat at a meeting last night, the solar company representative sat in the back of the meeting, and I asked him, I said, if we pass the law, which some of the town board members wanted to last night, I asked him, I said, how many projects do you have going here? He said, one. We only have one. Well, I knew better than that, and I let him just sit on that, and I questioned him a little bit more, and he insisted it was only one project. Then I asked him who Lindsay Fitzpatrick was. She works for Seaboard Solar, and they've canvassed all the people in our town that have large parcels of land, millions of dollars of offers to take and purchase their property, to take and put solar fields in, to blanket our town, my town, where all my children live, my town, plaster it with solar fields. And he sat back there and he misled and he misinformed the board. Be careful with these solar companies. They say they do a lot of good for everybody. And the other gentleman from the farm up on Renix Corners Road spoke of an 8% efficiency. I wonder how many people in this room right now would buy a car that ran 8% of the time, or even 30% of the time. If you did, you're a fool, an absolute fool. I support this law, and I hope my town has the smarts and the courage to adopt most of the information, make our law safer for our people. So I'm in favor of it, and I wish you all well. Thank you.
Darlene, do you answer?
Hi, Darlene Geloso, 1729 Ferguson Street. Supervisor Collins at the March 27th meeting of the town board. The official minutes indicate the board was only intending to extend where our Main Street neighborhood overlay district is located, not to lower the allowable building height. What changed in less than 2 months and why you could not let the Rotterdam Community Center leaders personally know the allowable building height was going to be changed after the vote took place. Please rescind your May 22nd vote to change the allowable building height in Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District, and to work with the Rotterdam Community Center in a transparent manner to ensure Rotterdam, New York remains a nice place for decades to come. I've lived in Rotterdam most of my life. My family ran a business for decades. Rotterdam is a nice place to live, but sometimes it's not. If you have the income, the home, the health, it's great. Most of you don't even know who your neighbors are. Well, it takes only one accident, loss of a job, illness, or a repair away from disaster. The importance of the community center and services they provide is necessary to make Rotterdam the town that is nice to live in. We have enough fast food, banks, apartments, and homes. But housing is becoming unaffordable, food security is increasing, this includes working family. People do not know unless they are in the situation and can truly understand what happens to people. Why is it so important to support the community center, which provides needed services? Volunteers and community organizations provide those in need, and the need is increasing every single day. Thank you.
Karen Underwood.
My name is Karen Unser, and I live at 1310 Rosewood Avenue in Rotterdam. Supervisor Collins, did you know that 7.1% of Rotterdam residents have a veteran status, according to the Census Tracker org? This is 1.5 times that of New York's veteran status population as a whole. Many veterans could stand to benefit from housing proposed by the Rotterdam Community Center. Please rescind your May 22nd vote to change the allowable building height in the Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District and work with the Rotterdam Community Center in a transparent manner to ensure Rotterdam, New York remains a nice place to live for decades to come. Personally, I've lived in Rotterdam since I was a child. It's always been nice here, and I've been working at the community center to help with the food pantry. I've enjoyed the movies there. I like seeing the children enjoy the movies. I enjoy the music, coffee houses. I believe that it should stay there. And Gilderland has a food pantry, other residential, Schenectady has a food pantry, now Rotterdam does. It's wonderful. And that's the way I think about it.
Thank you. Ann Grzywowski. Sorry, I'm not pronouncing her last name right.
That's close.
I was gonna say, how bad did I do?
Hi, my name is Ann Jivichewski.
Oh, okay.
And I live on 2729 Van Dyke Avenue. I've been a resident of Rotterdam for about 8 years. Supervisor Collins, on page 11.1 of the Town of Rotterdam's most recent comprehensive plan, part of the plan's vision statement includes parks and recreational opportunities abound, providing options for people of all ages to connect with nature and each other. The Rotterdam Community Center believes our proposed redevelopment will help our town achieve that vision. Please rescind your May 22nd vote to change the allowable building height on the Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District and work with the Rotterdam Community Center in a transparent manner to ensure Rotterdam, New York remains a nice place to live for decades to come. Also wanted to add, I'm also on the advisory board for the Rotterdam Community Center, and we do a lot with our food pantry, our produce pantry, movie nights. We have yoga, Zumba, many activities for the community. All are welcome, so please consider changing your vote. Thank you.
West McNeil.
Good evening. My name is Reverend West McNeil. I live at 994 Burdick Street in Rotterdam. I have lived here for almost 7 years. Supervisor Collins, on page 4 of the town of Rotterdam's most recent comprehensive plan, appendices, it indicates our town's population has only grown by 3.6% since 1990, a much slower rate than the surrounding county. The Rotterdam Community Center's proposed redevelopment will bring more hardworking families to our town, making it a more attractive place to live. Please rescind your May 22nd vote to change the allowable build height in the Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District and work with the Rotterdam Community Center in a transparent manner to ensure Rotterdam remains a nice place to live for decades to come. As I said, I've been in Rotterdam for about almost 7 years now. Somebody with a young family, it's very hard to find affordable housing in this region. I know there are a lot more families with even less, for whom it's even more hard. The housing that this proposal could provide is a benefit to our whole community. And the services that the Rotterdam Community Center are providing are needed now more than ever. And it's essential that this plan is allowed to go forward and that the leadership of the Rotterdam Community Center is engaged meaningfully in trying to figure out a solution that allows this really important thing that is a draw for this community to continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next one, it looks like Longwood is the last name, but it's a 1081 Van Antwerp Road in Schenectady. I can't really read the first part of the name.
I think I'm allowed to speak.
I'm sorry?
I'm the vice president of the council for inside of the church. I don't live in Rotterdam, but I've been a member of the congregation for 10 years. We believe that the continuing possibility of having this expanded opportunities for serving the community will be good for the community and for the church.
And what is your name, sir? I'm sorry. Could you say your name on there?
I'm sorry?
Your name, could you state your name?
Yeah, Merle Longwood.
Okay, thank you so much. Randy McGo.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Randolph Magoo. I live in the city of Schenectady, but I live on the border of the city of Schenectady with Rotterdam. Supervisor Collins, on page 11-2 of the town of Rotterdam's most recent comprehensive plan, it states the following goals. Expand opportunities for residents and visitors to experience history, arts, and culture. Provide a diversity of year-round recreational activities for the employment of all residents and enjoyment of all residents and visitors. The Rotterdam Community Center's proposed redevelopment can help the town reach those goals. Please rescind your May 22nd vote to change the allowable build height in the Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District and work with the Rotterdam Community Center in a transparent manner to ensure that Rotterdam, New York remains a place to live for decades to come. I'm also on the board, the advisory board for the Rotterdam Community Center. I'm also the fundraising chair of the center, and I've seen a lot of the great work that they do. They help a lot of people for the food pantry, from the produce days, and also some of the other programs that they do. And if this happens not to be rescinded, there's a possibility that the center could close. And a lot of the services that we provide would not be available to the folks who are needing those services. So I'd like to ask if you could, if at all possible, reconsider your vote on this particular issue and allow the folks of Rotterdam, and especially those who are in need of housing, affordable housing, and other services, to receive those services. Thank you.
Matt Winans.
Good evening. evening. Good evening. My name is Matt Winans, and I live at 1141 Northwest Scott Road. Supervisor Collins, on page 3-17 of the Town of Rotterdam's most recent comprehensive plan, it recommends that we, 1, encourage a mix of high-quality residential development in the town with diverse offerings for families of all sizes, income levels, and stages of life. And 2, identify which areas of the town may be eligible for grants to assist with housing rehabilitation or to subsidize the cost of affordable housing construction. The Rotterdam Community Center's proposed redevelopment will help us achieve this goal. Please rescind your May 22nd vote to change the allowable build height in the Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District and work with the Rotterdam Community Center in a transparent manner to ensure that Rotterdam, New York remains a nice place to live for decades to come.
Sandra Van Heusen.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the town board and all your guests for coming tonight. I appreciate that. My name is Sandra Van Heusen, and I live on 1988 Terrytown Road, Faribault, New York. Supervisor Collins, on page 3-20 on the Town of Rotterdam's most recent comprehensive plan, it discusses the importance of Memorial Park. We believe that the Rotterdam Community Center proposed redevelopment will drive further reinvestment, help us improve that critical resource for our local community. Please rescind on May 22nd vote to change the allowable build height in the Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District and work with the Rotterdam Community Center in the transparent manner to ensure Rotterdam, New York, remains a nice place to live for decades to come. Now, I am 70 years old. I know I don't look like I'm over 35, but and I go to the food pantry. I've been going to this food pantry for 40 years, and I know there's an amount of 148 because we all have our little numbers and stand in line at 415. I have attended another food pantry in another location. In March of this year, I came down with COVID for the fourth time. And I was in my car and I had a little note and I told the lady, I said, I have COVID, could you please put my food outside my car? She, what? You can't be here. You gotta get over a parking lot. She said, this is like a loaded gun. And I go, I'm doing the right thing. If you guys had COVID, what would you do? You stay in your car and put up your little note. I have COVID. Could you give me my food? But she was the minister of the church, and she said, I want you to go to your doctors, and when you get a negative reading, then you can come back. Well, as you can see, I didn't go to the doctor because it used to be free through the government. It's $45 to go to the doctor, and I didn't go. What I found out later, she got COVID, but it wasn't for me. There was another man, there was a 78-year-old man, he's a Greek cook, and we would talk about the foods, like pasta basil and different things that I don't know how to make. And he was sick on a Monday, Tuesday was food pantry, he didn't go. He said, I got the shakes, my body hurts, and I go, and that day he's supposed to go to the doctor, and he didn't. Thursday he showed up, and I sat in his car. Bad, because he had COVID, and by the weekend I got it. By the way, for the people that volunteer at the food pantry, I did not go to the food pantry until after 6 readings, I was negative. Now, the person at the food pantry accepted the fact I had COVID, but after 6 times, I was negative. It didn't matter. I still needed that piece of paper from my doctor. So 3 months later, I haven't gone back. So when I did, after I had this, I asked her if she could put the groceries in the store, like I said, or in by the car, but she didn't. She said I was like a loaded gun. But what I want to say is I do go to that food pantry, and I've been going for quite a while, and the people are people that I can communicate with, and we talk about our recipes. There are several people here that volunteer their time. They're very, very friendly. And where
I'm
can
sorry,
you go?
I don't mean to interrupt, but you've reached your limit.
Okay, my 4 minutes are up. Okay, on that, all I have to say, food for thought, don't dwell on what went wrong. Instead, focus on what to do next. Spend your energies on moving forward toward finding the answer. And I wish you luck on re-voting in our favor, maybe. Thank you.
Douglas Chilton.
Hello, my name is Doug Chilton, and with all due respect, I live in Schenectady in the Stockade, but I'm a musician at the church. I've taught music in Schenectady for about 40 years. Okay, this is really fun. I mean, I did this in civics class in high school. Haven't done it since then, but now I know what my father was talking about when he went to save our country in World War II. And this is what it's all about. It feels so good. Like we're sharing ideas, but we might disagree, and that's all right. So, enough philosophy. On with the community center. It's an obvious one, no-brainer. I have some prepared remarks here that I'm supposed to read to get into the record, and I will read them at the end. So, hope I don't go over the 4 minutes, but it's a no-brainer that you need to have a place for people in a community to gather and do things other than just in their own individual houses or shopping. Shopping's great. I love shopping, believe me. I got these suspenders for the occasion. I also got a haircut today. Yeah. Anyway, so that's a no-brainer. Now, the affordable housing thing, I know that's like a hot button. That's like a trigger for people because where I live in the Stockade, there's talk about that and all that kind of stuff. But it's really about providing a house that someone can afford to live in and not have to pay like 50% of their income. That's all it's about. You know, it's not about anything else. It's not about cigarette butts. It's not about this or that. It's just about providing affordable housing. So to me, that's you know, kind of an obvious one. So let me put. So you'll use your wisdom, and you're going to vote the way you're going to vote by your hearts and your conscience, because that's what democracy is about. So. Supervisor Collins, did you know Messiah Lutheran Church has been working to develop a community center for the good of our town and the good of your town, in line with the earliest stages of our comprehensive plan since February of 2020. In other words, they've been going on this for since 2020, 4 years. And I believe that rushing to change the overlay district, which I had a question on, don't you have to have a hearing to do zoning changes? I had a technical question about that. Sorry to interject, but I mean, I know they do in the other towns I've been to stuff with, and I learned that in civics class in high school. So without public comment, you need to have public comment. So please rescind that May 22nd vote, and keep working with us. We're good people. We're just like, we're the same. We're just trying to provide something good for the town and the community. So I think it's a good deal. Peace and love.
Thank you.
Reverend Dustin Longmire.
Thank you so much, friends. Reverend Dustin Longmire. I live at 4 Oak Street, right next to Messiah Lutheran Church. Flowers are looking pretty good right now, I think. There's a lot I could say, but I think in the end, I want to lift up that, as you've been hearing already from so many of our members, our friends, our guests, just a wide cross-section of so many different types of people. We've been trying to follow, this comprehensive plan from the beginning, from way back in the darkest days of the pandemic. We really have, and you'll hear a little bit more from some of our other members as well. So many of our folks have worked countless hours to try to help our community thrive, and to do so in a way that's reflective of this plan. We have one of our members here, our church matriarch. She's worked full-time for years on this food pantry. And she's in her mid-80s and is having to step back a bit. And, we need to start moving towards a place where we have more sustainable staff and to support all that we're trying to do in this place for the good of our town. We've been working so hard for so many years to launch this space, to really work together with everyone as best as we can for the good of our town, reflective of this plan that we are all reading. And I was looking at the early, iterations of this. In the darkest days of the pandemic, I couldn't go to the meetings because I was busy trying to literally drive toilet paper to members of the congregation's houses because they didn't have any. Things like that, right? That's what I was doing, but also looking at the results of some of these initial surveys and stuff that were coming out. And we were dreaming about what could be possible with this community center as we began figuring out how to merge with Trinity Reformed Church. We presented a plan to you, Supervisor Collins and Deputy Supervisor Dodson, just a couple months ago. That was a long culmination of 4 years of conversation. We simply want more time to continue that conversation with every single one of you. I want to get to know some of you personally. I saw, I'm only supposed to talk to you, Supervisor Collins. Okay. Joe, Ron, I see that you liked Dave Matthews Band. I'd love to go to a Dave Matthews Band concert with you. Right? Terry, Diane, I don't really know what you like, but let's have coffee at least. Supervisor Collins, I'd love to get to know you better as well. We need to be good neighbors, and let's just simply have an opportunity to talk about this. The last thing I'm going to say is that we have 4 young adults who are paid for by the Schenectady Foundation in partnership with Siena College, who are doing a detailed community needs analysis this summer in the town of Rotterdam. Those results are going to be processed by students at Siena College this fall. We are simply asking to wait until we see the results of that study by the end of the year, and then we can make some decisions about how to move forward with our Rotterdam Community Center. I pray for an ongoing sense of neighborliness and goodwill for everyone in this town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I took other people's papers, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Carol Ann Renna?
Has nothing to do with this, Diana.
No, you can talk about anything. Okay. We're just kind of going in order of how everybody signed up.
Oh, no, I didn't know.
You're good.
Hi, Carol Ann Renna from 766 Old Duanesburg Road. I live on the Old Duanesburg Road, which is a dead end on Shelmont side on the thruway. 2 doors away from us, they're going to put in a Tractor Supply right next door to me. And, it's going to be changed. You have to change it from agriculture to business or, or commercial. I would like you to vote it down. Agriculture, there's not much there. Why don't these companies go into the big box stores that have been empty for years, like Office Max, Staples, someplace, just because we're near the thruway and it's easy for the tractor trailers to get on and off. For me to get out of my road to make a left-hand turn to take the kids to school, my grandkids, I sat there for one morning, 6 minutes, just to make a left-hand turn. And that's just to get into the middle of the road and then move over on top of the bridge. I mean, traffic is unbelievable now. So if they're gonna put in, if you're gonna change it, then something has to be done with that road. Either new lights, or, a speed, it's 40 miles an hour now, drop it down, put a light up, which I can't see a light going up at the end of the bridge. So I'm just asking that you don't change it to commercial, keep it agriculture, the animals, just like they said, up on Renix Corners Road, they have no place to go. One morning, we saw a deer, 9 o'clock in the morning, on the corner of Dunsville and Duanesburg Road. Where are these animals going to go? Well, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Penny and Jimmy?
My name is Penny in City. I live at 1133 Fort Hunter Road. And I put this up closer. As a resident of Rotterdam for 47 years, I object to the zoning change of the Main Street Neighborhood Center Zone Overlay District. With this change in zoning, it will be impossible to redevelop the land and retain the community center. When my children were young, there were park counselors in every park. This is no longer the case. Rotterdam has changed and the needs of our families have changed. Families need affordable housing near a park, near a Boys and Girls Club. Families need the amenities provided at the community center, and they need a walkable town. In today's economy, some families have to choose between housing and a car. Community center is vital to sustaining Rotterdam residents. It is a growing opportunity that is meeting the needs of families every day. We serve 350 families weekly. We have a food pantry, produce pantry, arts and culture classes, yoga, Zumba, rental space for the community to host private parties. All these community offerings have steadily increased with participation as time passes. Food pantry and produce pantry alone serve over 300 families each month. The success of these new programs prove there is a need, and the community center meets these needs. However, without development of the land, these benefits to the hardworking families of Rotterdam are unsustainable. People struggling to pay for housing are in need of affordable housing. The families of Rotterdam need the services of the community center, and they need the affordable housing that could come with this development. The sustainability of these services at stake here, and changing the zoning would be bad for families. As a town board, how can you overlook these needs? Town board is elected to serve the people of the community. Are you really doing that by changing the zoning for this particular overlay district? The Boys and Girls Club would benefit greatly from the proposed project, and a new community center will be built for redevelopment. On page 42 of the comprehensive plan, calls for a community center next to a park. Memorial Park is right next to the property. This perfectly meets the needs of this part of the plan in December of 2022. There were zoning problems such as, if there were zoning problems such as the overlay district, why were they not addressed when the comprehensive plan was developed in 2022? You were certainly aware of the disgruntled homeowners on Vista Square, regarding Vista Square. In a phone conversation with Molly, I understood that there would be a vote tonight or in the near future for the zoning change. I've now heard that it may have already happened, and I'm not sure because I'm not clear about that. The community center is in the Main Street neighborhood center zone. As a longtime resident of Rotterdam, it's my position that we should be taking care of young families and doing everything we can to enhance the quality of life for families in our town. The pandemic and the economy have made it hard for many folks. As a resident, I respectfully request the zoning regulations are not changed for the Main Street neighborhood center zone. In changing the zoning, the town board is going against the families in need. Please figure out how to preserve the Main Street neighborhood center zone as it is and give families the affordable housing and the community center amenities they deserve. The signs say that Rotterdam is a nice place to live, and that should hold true for the new families in our town. Thank you.
Bonnie and Cindy?
My name is Ernie in City. My address is 1133 Fort Hunter Road. I've been a resident in Rotterdam for close to 50 years. And so as not to be repetitive, we're asking you to rescind the May 22nd vote. And I'm probably the most non-political human being in the world. But I have to say this, it should have never come to this. With a little bit more clarity, a little more communication, it wouldn't have. And all of the work of the many people who worked so hard to try to pull this off, and were led to believe that it was possible, seems to be a tragedy on both ends. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jill Becker?
My name is Jill Becker. I live at 1969 West Side Avenue. Supervisor Collins, as shown in the Town of Rotterdam's most recent comprehensive plan appendices, at a February 10th, 2020 stakeholders meeting, a Rotterdam resident called for the need for a central community center. The Rotterdam Community Center proposed redevelopment helps address this concern. Please rescind your May 22nd vote to change the allowable build height in the Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District and work with the Rotterdam Community Center in a transparent manner to ensure Rotterdam, New York remains a nice place to live for decades to come. I am a lifelong resident of Rotterdam, a volunteer at the Rotterdam Community Center, and co-founder of the Bread of Life Food Pantry. Back in 2015, the dream of Judy Becker to create a food pantry to help the community of Rotterdam came true. The pantry was started in a very, very small office at Messiah Lutheran Church. However, the number of guests that we were helping kept growing and growing, so when Messiah Lutheran Church consolidated with Trinity Reformed Church, the pantry moved into a newly renovated space in the Trinity building. Now, due to the current demand, we operate the pantry 4 days a month, serving hundreds of families each month. This space is not only feeding many members of the Rotterdam community, but also in giving these people a place to meet their neighbors. Our pantry guests are not the only people who benefit from the Rotterdam Community Center. Were you aware that we have a monthly movie night? We have a 14-foot screen, 4K projector, surround sound, and a concession stand with fresh popcorn and pizza from our community partner, Highbridge Pizza. We feel our community movie night gives families an opportunity to go see a great movie with great snacks without breaking the bank. This year, we saw over 100 community neighbors attend a completely free Easter egg hunt, where after the hunt, were served a pancake breakfast, once again, completely free. The community health portrait event was also well attended by our Rotterdam neighbors. At this event, families were offered a professional family portrait, free gifts for their family members, visits with Santa, cookie decorating, among other things. Once again, completely free. Our performance hall is very frequently used as a live music venue. Starting this month, we will have monthly coffee houses featuring some of our area's finest musicians. Once again, completely free. We are so proud of how far the Rotterdam Community Center has come in just a short period of time and would love to have the opportunity to see just how much further it could go in the future. Thank you.
Rachel Vitesse Bacus?
Mathis?
I'm going to need a warning because I'm at risk of going over 4 minutes. So give me a little warning if you would, please, because the ending is the best part. So. My name is Rachel DeTesso Mathis. I live at 2110 Van Wormer Road, and I want to speak about the recent rezoning decision that impacts the Rotterdam Community Center. I am a lifelong Rotterdam resident, and I'm also on the advisory board of the RCC, the Rotterdam Community Center. I have lived in Rotterdam since I was 4 years old, when my parents moved here for 2 reasons. 1, so that we could be close to my father's job at General Electric, and 2, because my parents both believed Rotterdam was a nice place to live. So I'm sharing from my experience as a 47-year resident of this town that I love, and yes, you can do the math, that's okay. You see, my father really believed in being nice. He grew up like his parents before him, solidly middle class and fully aware that he had to work for everything that he had. But he also understood that not everyone was as fortunate as him, and he taught his children that people from all walks of life deserve to have the basics, especially enough food on the table and a roof over their heads. In fact, quick side note, my brother reminded me of this. When he passed away in 2012, we were going through his finances and we discovered that he had been donating money for years to several charities that were really near and dear to his heart. So my father believed in being nice. And he really imparted this value of being nice to his children, which is why it shouldn't be a big surprise that both my brother and I are very actively involved in the Rotterdam Community Center. My mother is also, and she's also a really big part of how I grew up to believe all that I believe. I want everyone who doesn't have firsthand experience with RCC to understand what it is like. We're a scrappy little organization. We really started based on the principle that we should look out for each other. I was going to mention the Bread of Life Food Pantry. It all started with the Bread of Life Food Pantry, which began as a tiny little closet, as Joe mentioned, in the basement of Messiah Lutheran Church. When the founders learned that nearly 1/3 of all families in the Mohonasen School District did not have enough food and qualified for a free or reduced lunch. So that was the spark. I am sure that that number is higher now. Honestly, I didn't have time to look, but I am sure that it's higher now. The food pantry operated for years from our church basement, but it was really outgrowing its origins. And then we were given the absolute gift of a building when our church merged with another church that was closing. We realized that we could expand and help more Rotterdam families in a bigger building, and also add on programs that would be beneficial to the community. Sorry. Now, we offer so many amazing programs, and our goal is to bring people together and meet whatever needs that they might have. You see, we are serving families who already exist here in our town. And if we have to close our doors, where will these folks go? Where will the 150 individuals who show up every Friday for free produce go? Where will the 350 individuals who rely on our food pantry each month go? I was trying to think of the possible reasons why this rezoning happened. And really, I can only come up with two plausible reasons. The first was aesthetics. But if you've seen the possible plans, they're gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful building. They just are. So if that's one of them, I hope that aesthetics don't outweigh the needs of people in the community. So I really don't think that's it. I think it's fear. How close am I?
30 seconds.
Darn it. Fear that as we grow at the Rotterdam Community Center that we will attract people from other communities here. But that's not what's happening. I can tell you for certain what is happening is that we are helping people right here in our community. In addition to serving on the advisory board, I volunteer at the Friday Produce Pantry, which is the highlight of my week. I can tell you firsthand that almost everyone who comes to the Produce Pantry is from right here in the community. In fact, so many people walk there. And what happens each Friday can be summed up in one word: community. Because the RCC is not about giving handouts or turning people away.
I'm sorry.
Instead, people come early for community. I do really hope that you will read the rest of my remarks. Like I said, the ending was the best part. If anybody has free time and wants to read, anybody wants to read the rest of my comments, feel free. I have these. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening.
Chris DeTessa.
Good evening. I'd like to state for the record I'm much younger and much more pretty than my sisters. All to acknowledge that? Good. Okay, good vote. All right. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to hear our concerns. My name is Chris DeTessa, and I am on the advisory board of the Rotterdam Community Center. I have lived in Rotterdam for 44 years, and it's also all day. I grew up just off 400 Road, playing at Esposito Park with park counselors and bringing $1 on Fridays for pizza. And it was the best day. It's no secret that Rotterdam has changed. Times are tough. Residents are struggling. We see it every day. We understand that the town can't carry the entire burden. There's only so much room in the budget. We get that. That's precisely where we want to come in. I can assure you we have no agenda other than to help our neighbors. Between our food pantry, movie nights, you've heard it. You know what we do. We do a lot. Our Bread of Life Food Pantry alone served 369 people in the month of March. That's over 3,321 meals. Over 150 different households, 37 of which were new to the month of March. That grows every month. What I'm most proud of is over 420 hours of volunteer time in the month of March just for the food pantry. Volunteer time. Our neighbors and our members recognize the need. I can see us adding so much more to what we do in the future, whether it be adult education, full-time staff that can help people sign up for government assistance, programs run by the city mission, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on and on. That's what we want to do. By rezoning the community center, it renders us dead in the water. We are a nonprofit run by passionate individuals who volunteer all of their time. We have gotten by on a few small grants and by fundraising. We can only do so many Brooks barbecues. There's not a whole lot of money in it. We want to put those money that we can get from this affordable housing back into our community. Before you completely shut us down, do you know when I have a minute left too?
You actually have more, 2 minutes.
Good, great. Before you completely shut us down, thank you, I would ask that you come spend some time with us, see who we are, see what we are about, volunteer at our food pantry, sit on a board meeting, join us for a fundraiser. You could even use our space free of charge to engage with your own constituents. We are a transparent organization that's solely focused on enriching the lives of our residents and community. Let me end with this. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I remember watching the Challenger blow up. I remember watching Ronald Reagan tell Gorbachev to take that wall down. I remember watching our troops deployed for Operation Desert Storm to fight and die and not fully understanding it after all I was a child. I remember watching the Twin Towers fall and praying and being angry like the rest of us. I remember watching our nation come together. All of it. We're not there anymore. We're not there anymore. Where did that go? We had neighbors back then. We knew them. We really knew our neighbors. We talked, we barbecued together, we laughed. They were an extension of our own families. We may have disagreed with them in politics, but we loved them anyway. We knew their heart. Their lawn was my lawn, vice versa. We've lost that. We've lost it. I don't care who you voted for. This isn't about politics, it's about optics. It's about doing the right thing. Are you a good person? That's all that matters to me. I don't care whether it's Trump or Biden. Are you a good person? That's what matters to me. I don't care who you love. Are you a good person? That's what matters to me. I may disagree with you, but back then we knew each other. There was always middle ground to find. Thank you. That's what the community center means to me. A place for everyone, a place to talk, a place to get to know your neighbor, a place that helps its neighbors. Nationally, we are divided. Great things have to start somewhere. We have to try, we have to talk, we have to be kind, we have to understand others. We no longer know our neighbors. We all run too quickly to judgment. We have lost empathy because we have stopped talking. This is what we want to do at the Rotterdam Community Center. Let us try. I beg you to work with us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
David Mathis.
To the members of the Rotterdam Town Board, hello. My name is David Jesse Mathis. I'm a 19-year-old resident of Rotterdam. I've lived in Rotterdam all my life. I've gone through the Mohannesson School District from kindergarten all the way through graduation. I actually graduated last year. That's 2023. I've loved Rotterdam all my life. I've always loved to be here, but I've always known within my lifetime that I've witnessed so much division and need in my hometown. Between tense school board meetings, expanding and shrinking free lunch programs, and rising costs of living, the community which I know and love is not without its challenges. One place which I have found which combats the divisiveness and fulfills the need of the people is the community center. Through its weekly produce pantry, the food pantry, and inclusive programming, the Rotterdam Community Center attends to the urgent needs of all Rotterdam residents who go there. But this rezoning changes all of that. The rezoning not only affects the Rotterdam Community Center, but all of those that it serves. This includes hundreds of families each week from food programs alone. We cannot continue to let partisan divisions keep us from promoting initiatives that benefit all of Rotterdam. I would like to conclude by saying that there is an ongoing community needs assessment conducted by Siena College. This is on behalf of the Rotterdam Community Center, and is one which I am personally a part of. It would be a disservice to the community to take these actions, which threaten the existence of the community center, during this study which will be used to better gauge the needs and provide programming for the people of Rotterdam. Thank you for your time.
Reverend Evan Mellenfeld? I'm trying my best.
That was a good stab. I am Reverend Darren Millville. I'm a pastor in Glenville, New York, and I'm here to support my brothers and sisters of their work in this community and the things that they do, because we are envious of what they do. Supervisor Collins, as shown in the Town of Rotterdam's most recent comprehensive plan appendices, at the February 10th, 2020 stakeholder meeting, a Rotterdam resident stated there was a need for a neutral location to hold meetings. The Rotterdam Community Center's proposal of redevelopment helps address this concern. Please rescind your May 22nd vote to change the allowable build height in the Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District and work with the Rotterdam Community Center in a transparent manner to ensure Rotterdam, New York remains a nice place to live for decades to come. My church also addresses needs of hunger because they are great throughout the state and in every region, no matter where we live. I'm also curious to be here to see what's going on and how this will affect my town and housing and community centers as they're built in our area as well. My denomination, sadly, is closing too many churches, and we see that in denominations around the country and in the Northeast. But I'm envious of the people of Messiah and the legacy of, was it Trinity? The church? The legacy that they left, that they didn't just let it become an empty church and an eyesore for your community, but rather created something that became beneficial for your community, and not just an empty building and a parking lot, which could create so many other problems. So I hope you reconsider your decision and take our comments seriously. Thank you.
Kimberly Marcuse?
Close.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Marquise. I live at 1067 Lakeview Avenue, and I am proud to be the board chair of the Rotterdam Community Center. They're gonna make me cry. As you can see, these people are so passionate about what we're doing. And what we're doing is for your town. I'm gonna try to get through this without crying, I promise. I'd like to express my concerns regarding the zoning restriction placed in our plans to develop affordable housing on the property. For 2 years, we provided the residents of Rotterdam with a centrally located, safe place to gather as a community, get to know each other, and enjoy programs, events, and services they need and want. We've done this with no assistance from the town. We haven't asked you to invest any money, time, resources, or effort to help us provide these services. Other than your town supervisor, I don't think any of you have even been in the community center or participated in any of the events we've had. Your town plan indicates that you need and want a community center that will encourage and enhance community activities and events to promote a sense of community. We've given you that for the past 2 years. Your town plan says that you want and need affordable housing and housing for seniors. We're attempting to provide that and asking no investment of money, time, effort, or energy from the town. The services we provide at the community center are a vital lifeline. You've heard about our food pantry. I'm not going to go into all that, but I want you to know that 80% of the clients that use our food pantry and our free produce pantry are seniors trying to make ends meet on just Social Security. The number of residents needing these services continues to grow every month. We provide many community events. You've heard about a lot of those, and I'm not going to repeat all of those. I hope you'll come and visit us and participate in those. We're giving the residents of Rotterdam everything your town plan says you want from a community center. We haven't asked any help from the town. We have put our hearts and souls personal finances, and countless hours into the community center. We came to the town board in good faith with our hopes to build senior and affordable housing on our property. You wanted us to change our plans to include retail space on the ground floor. Our mission has only been to build much needed affordable housing, but we changed our plans to include retail because you asked us to. And now you're tying our hands by limiting the number of affordable units that we can build. This will hugely reduce the property value and ultimately limit our ability to financially support the cost of running the community center. And I can imagine that you can imagine that they are great. And force us probably to close, leaving many residents without supports and programs we offer. Your decision is a huge injustice to the residents who desperately need the services we provide and an affordable place to live. And if you think this isn't a problem in Rotterdam, you're fooling yourselves. There are people who can't afford to buy food and pay rent. I personally was at the Aldi's down here, and 2 senior women were in line behind me, and one of them said to the other she didn't know if she had enough money to pay for the groceries on the belt, and the other one told her, go to the community center, you can get food and produce for free. This is the reality of the lives of some of your town residents. They deserve better. They deserve to live in a safe, affordable place where they don't have to choose between food or housing. We're offering you that, and all we ask is that you work with us to make it a reality. Please do the right thing for the people that you represent so that Rotterdam will be a place all residents can live with dignity. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Joe Perrione.
Good evening. My name is the Reverend Joe Paparone. I actually live in Albany, but I am the community organizer for the Rotterdam Community Center, and I've been working there since January, and a longtime friend of Messiah Lutheran Church. On page 3-10 of the comprehensive plan, it states that a key hallmark of placemaking is to create destinations that draw in and encourage visitors to visit and spend time in the community. And those destinations might include a square or town center, a main street, waterfront area, park, museum, or community center. Each destination should have multiple places within it to encourage people to spend time, such as shops and cafes, a playground, sidewalks with benches for people to sit, or a small park area. This is practically describing, it almost describes the community center now, and definitely describes the plans for the community center. So please, please, please rescind your May 22nd vote to change the allowable build height in the Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District and work with this community center. In the short time that I've gotten to work here, like I said, I'm in Albany, but I get to spend time with the folks coming to the pantries. I've participated in a number of the programs at the community center. I've learned a lot about your town, and I know it's been a big year in the little town of Rotterdam. You are dealing with and confronting issues that are statewide, national, international in scope, right? They are finding some expression here. I'm sure that's probably not what you expected when you ran for this office. And I'm also an organizer with the New York State Poor People's Campaign and the Nonviolent Medicaid Army. And we work to carry forward Dr. King's vision of a Poor People's Campaign to end injustices of poverty, systemic racism, militarism, ecological devastation. I don't think anyone expects the town board of the town of Rotterdam to solve these big crises, right? You are doing the best you can in your limited purview. And so what I want to share in my perspective, you've heard all about the incredibly powerful activities and services offered by the community center, why it's so necessary here, right? How many people benefit from it. But these crises that I said are so big, wherever I go around this state, meeting with poor and working class people, whether that's the Bronx or St. Lawrence County or Elmira or Rochester or Nassau and Suffolk County, people are facing the same issues, and it doesn't matter what their political affiliation is, what their skin color is, what their background is, what language they speak. And the folks who are showing up at the community center here represent the cross-sections of all of those lines that we are divided by, right, in our society. What the community center does is create a space where we can begin to break down those barriers. as I said, I don't think anyone expects the town board of Rotterdam to solve these major crises. However, I have an unwavering faith in the power and intelligence and capacity of poor and working class people when they can be helped to take action together, which is what Dr. King was doing and said at the end of his life. And the community center is a space where that can begin to happen. So please, do the right thing, partner with the community center, cultivate and support the programs that are happening there, because it's not just the programs, it's the people and the relationships and the connections that are occurring in that space that are going to be able to answer and deal with these big crises that are happening far beyond the purview of this town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Reverend Imani O'Lear.
Good evening, Reverend Imani O'Lear. Sorry, that's all right, you're all right. I am from Rochester, New York, but I am a deployed staff from Chicago, so Rotterdam has landed national attention for the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. And so, Supervisor Collins, did you know that the area median household income for the town of Rotterdam is $79,415, according to Censorship Reporter. This means that an average family of 3 or more Rotterdam residents could qualify to live in the housing development proposed by the Rotterdam Community Center. Please rescind your May 22nd vote to change the allowable build height in the Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District and work with the Rotterdam Community Center in a transparent manner to ensure Rotterdam, New York remains a nice place to live for decades to come. And so, Proverbs 14:31 says, "Those who oppress the poor insult God, but those who are kind to the needy honor God." Our ELCA social statement on housing justice recognizes that housing justice as a critical issue. It emphasizes the fair treatment and equitable status of all individuals concerning housing. Housing justice ensures that everyone has access to safe, affordable, and dignified housing. Policies and institutions should collectively promote fairness and equity in housing. The ELCA acknowledges that those that are unhoused or without affordable housing persist despite the United States' wealth and resources. Messiah Lutheran and the Rotterdam Community Center play a crucial role in housing and hunger and ways of belonging by providing services, empowerment, and support. This challenge of zoning changes impacts housing justice efforts. And if Rotterdam truly wants community resilience, housing stability contributes to that. If the community center faces closure due to zoning change, it could disrupt the stability of individuals and families who depend on its services. Remember, housing justice is about more than shelter. It is about dignity, equality, and creating a just society where everyone has a place to call home. Thank you.
Lori Lumper.
Hi, Lori Lumper, 1033 Northwest Scott Road, former member of Trinity Reformed Church and now Messiah Lutheran. Supervisor Collins, on page 11112 of the town of Rotterdam's most recent comprehensive plan, it states regarding the Five Corners node, the lack of continuous sidewalks throughout the area has created a vehicular-dependent community that is unpleasant to walk. Improving the walkability and pedestrian safety will help improve the connectivity between and within Five Corners intersection and the surrounding residential area. New sidewalks would connect the major commercial areas and activity nodes, including the library and park. In addition to the streets that intersect at the 5 corners, sidewalk upgrades are recommended along Broadway, Westcott Road, intermittent areas of Draper Avenue, and Guilderland Avenue. The Rotterdam Community Center's proposed redevelopment will help us achieve this goal. Please rescind your May 22nd vote to change the allowable build height in the Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District and work with Rotterdam Community Center in a transparent manner to ensure Rotterdam, New York remains a nice place to live for decades to come. I think I win the prize. I've been a resident for 50 years. Oh, okay, all right. We'll talk later. We came here Navy on the Army Depot years ago, and we loved it here to North Westcott Road. I've been a member of this community for that long. It is a good place to live. It is a good place. Times have changed. When we moved in 50 years ago, families stayed here. Now people move, children move. It's different. We need community. Community is what builds families, friends. People used to have get-togethers in their backyard. They helped build each other's garages. Now with all the moving, we don't even know all our neighbors. The community center builds that community. We need that to help each other to thrive. It's important. It's just so important. It's all volunteers. It's doing the work that doesn't just happen. And I would highly recommend that you rescind the zoning vote. Thank you.
Helen Rose?
Yes. It's false. Hi, I'm Helen Ross, and I live at 3020 Myrtle Ave. I settled here about 5 years ago after I got divorced. Luckily, I bought out so I can afford a home to live in. It's cheaper than rent, so affordable housing would be ideal for people like me, you know, with a great job, works for the state, and could use that affordable living and not living with my mother at 52, you know? So that didn't work out very well. But one thing I did notice about our community here is that it's very tight. And the marinara sauce always smells good. But it's a very tight community, and they help me in a time of needs. You know, things have gone up and my paycheck hasn't. So I've had some hardship in health, you know, so I had back surgeries and stuff, and so it's been a little issue. And they've helped me with open arms. And every Friday, I see everybody there, and it's incredible. It's a better community than I grew up in. And talking to all the people there and learning who your neighbors are. You know, I didn't have that where I was before. We did kind of separate a little bit, you know. So the Rotterdam Community Center is my home. We're strong and united, and we're just very tight. So on that note, my dad always said, don't fix something that's not broken. Just let it be. It's a good place, and it helps a lot of people. They welcome me. Thank you.
Christy Milligan?
Hi, good evening. My name is Christy Milligan. Actually, I live in Niskayuna. Supervisor Collins, on page 3-21 of the Town of Rotterdam's most recent comprehensive plan, it recommends that we, 1, investigate opportunities for a centrally located town park or community center with the potential for active and passive recreational opportunities, and 2, work with community stakeholders, institutions, and neighborhood organizations to encourage and enhance community activities and events to promote neighborhoods and a sense of community, like block parties, neighborhood arts and cultural festivals, concerts, etc. The Rotterdam Community Center Rotterdam Community Center's proposed redevelopment will help us to meet all of those recommendations. Please rescind your May 22nd vote to change the allowable build height in the Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District and work with the Rotterdam Community Center in a transparent manner to ensure Rotterdam, New York remains a nice place to live for decades to come. I wanted to just say that I met the Rotterdam Community Center team when I worked at the Schenectady Foundation. They came to us, the first thing that I remember is they came to us talking about their Bread of Life food pantry. And they were just saying, it's so small, there's so many people who need us, and they had this great opportunity to move into what's now the community center. And it was just exciting to see that they're listening to their community. They're not saying, oh, we want to do this grant. They're just saying, our friends need us, and we're going to be there for them, so can you help us? So the other part that was impressive that made us want to give them the grant was that they said, this is just the beginning. We're going to build this food pantry, and we're going to build around it. There's going to be a whole plan. There's going to be other services and activities, and it was, I mean, they had maps. They had everything drawn out, and it was really impressive. And just saying, well, they really understand food security is not just not having enough food. There's a reason people don't have enough food. There are root causes, and they understand that, and they know that there are a lot of different things that people need to get to those root causes, and they want to provide that for their neighbors. So we went on to work with them over years, and the other thing that is really impressive is they just want to do the right thing. They came to us for a grant for a strategic plan to make sure that they were really addressing the needs as they should for their community. They, as Joe spoke about, they have a community organizer trying to figure everything out. They came to us for a grant too for a needs assessment to find out exactly what Rotterdam needs and what Rotterdam residents want. And all they want to do is the right thing for their neighbors and friends. And I just really hope that all of this is helping you to understand that it's exciting to think about what they can accomplish and what they can do for their community. And they have the hearts and the souls and the right people in place to make this happen because they're inclusive. They invite everybody to the table, and it's literally everybody. If you care, you are a part of the team. And this is it's an exciting thing, and the opportunities are endless to see what they can do. So I really just hope that you will rescind that decision and see what they can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda Birch.
My name is Brenda Birch. This is my first time here. I'm here to support the Rotterdam Community Center. I used to live just up the street in Sunrise, but with retirement, I couldn't afford to keep the house. So I now live at Holly Manor. And Edison, Holly Manor, and Father Lee O'Brien, I'm sure a lot of people come over to the food pantry. And I support that. And I think I get the prize. I've been here 73 years. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Linda Slavic Price.
My name is Linda Slovacek Price. That's all right. I live at 291 North Thompson Street in Rotterdam. And there's not much else I can add to what everyone has already said. I really am speechless. I just briefly, my own journey back to Rotterdam occurred when my husband passed away unexpectedly 3 years ago. And I was living in Niskayuna at the time. I sold my house and moved back home to Rotterdam. I hadn't been there in a long time. It was during the tail end of COVID. So it was like a time of isolation. And I was living in a new place, didn't know anybody there, and didn't have a church because I was having problems with the church I was with. So I was feeling a little blue I would drive past the community center, and they had crafters. Crafters welcome on Mondays, and I said, you know, crafters, I think about beer. I knew that wasn't what they were going for. But I said, I'm going to go and see what it's like. And the women there just, yeah, come on in. Doesn't matter if you craft or not. We're going to just chat and have some tea and cake and whatever. They took me in, and one thing led to another. I attended more things at the community center. Then I joined Messiah, wonderful church, the best, and the community center. And now I'm one of the ones that volunteer at the produce pantry, which serves many people. And there's really very little distinction between our customers, our guests, and us. I mean, we're just enjoying each other's company. It is the highlight also of my week. It really is. It's just wonderful to come to. And also, I was retired, so I had nothing to do. Now there's a lot to do, and it's all good. And we don't see distinctions between people. We are here to love and support each other, and that really is exactly what we do. And I have a little something I have to say. Supervisor Collins, on page 111-14 of the Town of Rotterdam's most recent comprehensive plan, it states, regarding mixed-use development, one, we want to encourage the creation of vibrant and attractive destinations to live, shop, work, and gather by promoting mixed-use development and redevelopment. Also, number two, we want to create walkable areas with unique identifiable character that have access to services, housing, and commercial establishments, and that the Rotterdam Community Center's proposed redevelopment will help us achieve this goal. Please rescind your May 22nd vote to change the allowable building height for the Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District and work with the Rotterdam Community Center in a transparent manner to ensure that Rotterdam, New York remains a nice place to live for decades to come. And just real quick again, I live in a crazy expensive apartment, but I can afford it. I am trying to help a relative find affordable housing in Rotterdam, but one that's on a bus route, and Holly Manor is great, and the Edison is great, but I don't know that we can do it in Rotterdam. There doesn't seem to be bus routes. So this would have been great for my relative if this happens, and I really do hope for everyone who needs affordable housing that we can do this. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Brenda Terosian.
Brenda Terosian, Rotterdam. Okay, I don't have, I think a couple things. I'm going to be referring to the Gazette article about the zoning change throughout the community center. And some of the things that was done on there really concerned me. First of all, I don't have anything to say negative about the Rotterdam place. What I do have to say is I was one of those people that needed some help as far as food went. And when it was Trinity Methodist Church, I was there every Friday. So to say maybe there isn't a problem in Rotterdam, I don't know. One of the things that bothered me in the article was it was reported that the change not only threatens the community center's viability, but significantly reduces the value of the property, according to Lohman, who suspects that the height allowance was reduced to thwart the affordable housing project, a move he called unconscionable. Then the next sentence says someone at the meeting, and that's either Mr. Dobson or Deputy Supervisor Mr. Dobson or Supervisor Collins, saying that these sort of places belong in Schenectady.
I wasn't at that meeting.
Well, whatever meeting it was, that comment was made. You do realize, in another 2 or 3 years, I'm going to be one of those people that are going to need affordable housing. Do you understand that there's homeless veterans who fought for the right to live here, to live in the United States, to live in Rotterdam, that don't have housing, yet you want to deny this group who's doing, you guys can't do what these guys are doing, and you're getting paid. The inscription on the Statue of Liberty: give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuge of your steaming shores, send those, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. I may be homeless in a couple, 2 or 3 years, so, especially when this board is doing what it's doing. These group of people are serving the community. Meals. I didn't realize they were doing meals. I would have been there in a heartbeat had I known it. These guys are doing remarkable work. And to say, to change the zoning, to change it, like, boom, that changed. There's got to be a reason for it. And I'm not going to sit there and say it's a political thing. Everybody can make up their mind. I've been at these meetings long enough, for 2.5 years. If it wasn't for Trinity Methodist and the food pantry, when I needed it, I stayed here, when I needed it, I'd be in trouble. So you're going to be putting not only these people who are doing volunteer work, but the people who need affordable housing, who need, as they said, the community, who need food pantry, who need assistance in figuring out how to get to services. I'm going. I heard you. I saw you.
Dean Romano.
My name is Dean Romano, and I am not here to talk about community center, but I am here to talk about the community. And so Rotterdam EMS has been part of our community for close to 100 years, and in all different forms, and we've grown with the community and changed with the community as the community has needed, and as the town board had asked us to. Several years ago, the town asked Rotterdam EMS to merge the 2 existing ambulance services into what is now known as Rotterdam EMS. And then about 10 years ago, the town decided to defund all ambulance service in Rotterdam, and Rotterdam EMS picked up the slack for that. Those 10 years, the finances have gotten tighter and tighter. And EMS in the country, and certainly in the state, is in a crisis. And Rotterdam is one of the very last communities in New York State to not fund EMS. And so for you to not recognize that EMS in our town is at a crisis and is a pending crisis would be short-sighted. And so I'm asking that the town board consider the new laws that were just passed in New York State that allow for special districts, allowing some funding to flow to the EMS systems in all of our communities to make sure that we can pay for readiness, that ambulances are available. We're talking about vulnerable communities and food insecurities. Some of those insecurities is also access to medical services, and in many communities, EMS is the first time access to medical care. And so without making sure that Rotterdam EMS is funded properly to maintain the proper staffing levels, those things will also be in jeopardy. So I'm asking, number one, can we please get a quarterly town EMS meeting established so we can discuss and look for the future? I'm asking for us to please consider a special ambulance district in the town of Rotterdam to make sure that Rotterdam has dedicated ambulances 24/7 to provide services to our vulnerable population. And I'm asking for us to do that sooner than later. If we do not do this voluntarily, we are going to be told by the state, this is how it's going to be done. So I'm asking that we can please get ahead of the cycle and have a plan so that we don't have to use a cookie cutter plan that's going to be told this is how we're going to do it. And we can do that. So I'm looking forward to communication from our town board members to set up meetings to discuss how we're going to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peyton York.
Hello, my name is Peyton York. I work with the Alliance for a Hunger-Free New York. We are a coalition of frontline community food providers across New York State. We are food pantries, community meals programs, mutual aid programs, food rescues, and I'm proud to call Rotterdam Community Center one of our members. I came here today to talk to you all about the importance of community hubs and community in terms of addressing food insecurity, as well as the general basic needs for communities. But I feel that the community has shown you the importance and how incredible it is how Rotterdam Community Center has entrenched itself in its community. So instead, I will just share that the main thing that I hear with any frontline community food provider across New York State will tell you when they say, why do you have guests show up? And it's because rent eats first. Before any person pays for their food or their medicine or schooling, it's rent. And that makes affordable housing an essential issue to all basic needs. Please rescind your May 22nd vote to change the allowable build height in the Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District until results from that survey can be released in December 2024. Please work with the Rotterdam Community Center in a transparent manner to ensure Rotterdam, New York remains a nice place to live for decades to come. We are all in this together. I would now like to use the rest of my time to share Rachel DeTesto Mathis' best part of their speech. And what happens each Friday can be summed up in one word: community. Because Rotterdam Community Center is not about giving handouts or turning people away. Instead, individuals come early so they can catch up with each other. People constantly offer to volunteer. We check in with each other, all of us, and catch up about the events in our lives. What can be better than that? Free vegetables and community? One thing Rachel always says, is that there but for the grace of God go I. What Rachel means, is that at any point in our lives, we all may need help. Sometimes it's vegetables, sometimes it's a whole load of groceries, sometimes it's a recovery group, sometimes it's to gather in community to watch a free movie or join a group for a board game night. Sometimes it's yoga or a community conversation about autism or any other amazing programs that RCC offers. And it isn't that what we really want for our communities, to look out for each other when we need it and to just be nice. So I, as well as Rachel and other board members for Rotterdam Community Center, please ask you all to reconsider your decision to rezone the property where RCC provides so much to the community. We elected you to represent our interests, and it is in the best interest of the town of Rotterdam to keep the Rotterdam Community Center. In fact, we invite you to join us. You are all welcome to, at any time, to roll up your sleeves and work alongside us to build community and keep Rotterdam a nice place to live. And I hope you do take them up on the offer. I have also been a beneficiary of Rotterdam Community Center sharing their space, and it is lovely, and the community is fantastic, and I know you all have experienced their charm for tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Marlene Whitehead.
Hello, I'm Marlene Whitehead, 1276 Princetown Road. I was here last month to express my concern about the electrical cable coming from Canada to New York City.
So I don't know if you've had a chance to drive down Princetown Road, but I am so sad about what happened to my street and my neighborhood. And I'm here tonight to find out what we can do to repair it. I've noticed in the paper recently, Glenville and Schenectady, I think Hillhurst Park, there's some funds available for refurbishing parks, or I don't know, aesthetics in the parks or whatever. And I'm wondering if Rotterdam is entitled to any of that kind of money to help the aesthetics and repair what's happened in Princetown Road. And that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, because it's after 9 already, and we still have quite a few resolutions to get through, anybody who sent in an email, it will go into the record, so it will be on the town website and recorded in the official minutes. I do have a statement that I'd like to read. There are some things that I think have to be clarified concerning the Main Street Neighborhood Overlay District. First, we did not change the zoning for those areas. The property is still zoned retail business. What the town board changed was the height of the buildings in neighborhood center districts, which include Rotterdam Junction, Hamburg Street, Gilderland Avenue, and the Five Corners. The overlay areas give you the option of a combination of business and residential uses. If you refer to the Rotterdam Comprehensive Plan, which between you and me, I think I've been referred to more than the good book tonight, you will see on 4-14, and I quote, "The purpose of this overlay district is to promote a mixture of complementary land uses." In the legislative request form for Resolution 224-.24, it speaks about the December 2022 update to the comprehensive plan and that it contains recommendations for the corridor mixed-use area. It further states, and I quote, "Limiting building heights, Main Street/neighborhood center zoning to 2 stories would help to implement these recommendations in the comprehensive plan." We did not go against the comprehensive plan, we implemented the recommendations. Secondly, this action was not taken due to any plans at the Rotterdam Community Center. We have had developers come in to discuss plans on Hamburg Street and Gilderland Avenue, which are also overlay areas. The town of Rotterdam has grown in the past 10 years, and we realize that some of our codes have not addressed the changes. We have developed codes for hotels, motels, inns, and bed and breakfast establishments. We are currently working on our solar code. These changes were not done to hinder any developer, but to keep us up with the changing world we live in. I'd like to address the steps the town board took. At the April 24th, 2024 Town Board meeting, we passed Resolution 189.24, recognizing the introduction of a local law which would change the allowable building height in the Main Street Neighborhood Center overlay districts. At this meeting, we referred this matter to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission issued a positive report and recommendation on May 7th, 2024. At the May 8th, 2024 Town Board meeting, we passed Resolution 203.24, calling for a public hearing on the local law which would change the allowable building height in the overlay districts. At the May 22nd, 2024 Town Board meeting, we held the public hearing. If my memory serves me, no one came and spoke about it. At the same meeting, we closed the public hearing and passed Resolution 224.24, which amended Chapter 270 zoning of the Town Code to reduce the allowable building height in the overlay districts. We published a draft agenda the Friday before every meeting. We published the final agenda on the Tuesday before the meeting. All of these resolutions were included in those agendas. I believe we have been completely transparent in our enactment of this legislation. I have worked with the Rotterdam Community Center in the past. When it was requested that I found out if they could use Rotterdam in their title, I checked with the attorney and told them it was fine. When they asked if the town could take down the steeple at the center, I had to tell them no, not only because we did not have the equipment to take it down, but because use of public funds for a private entity is not allowed. When they asked if I knew of any mental health providers who could volunteer at the center, I reached out to a neighbor who works at a facility to see if that would be a possibility. Unfortunately, it was not. I will not speak for anyone else on the board, but I think that the food pantry, fresh fruits and vegetables, and the many programs that they offer is a great benefit to our community, and I would like to see it continue. Over the past 2.5 years, developers have come before the Planning Commission or our senior planner with plans that have been denied. There have been developers who were made to reduce the number of apartments they wanted to build, businesses that did not have adequate parking and were refused. And everyone could, if they wanted, come back with plans that fit our code and zoning. Sometimes people ask me what the hardest part of my job is. To me, the hardest part is balancing any action this board takes. I think we all try to do what is best for the majority of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else? I'm closing privilege of the floor, and we're going on to resolutions. Okay. Our first resolution is past my bedtime. Our first resolution is Resolution 237 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
Accepting town board meeting minutes.
Okay, is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Galucci. Is there a second? I'll second. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes and 1 absent.
Motion, resolution passes. Next resolution is Resolution 238 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
To declare lead agency for seeker review for the proposed town court and police facility located at 369 Duanesburg Road.
Okay, is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Mastriani. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, I heard Ron first. Seconded by Mr. Schlab. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 239 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
To authorize an out-of-district water connection agreement with Bullseye Modulars LLC.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Mastriani. Do I have a second? I'll second. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution 240 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
To amend resolution number 75.24 to negotiate and execute an agreement with Bellamy Construction for boring services.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Mastriani. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mrs. Galucci. Clerk will call the, on the question. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 241 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
To authorize purchase of chlorine gas.
Okay, is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Mastriani. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mrs. Galucci. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 242 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
To negotiate and execute amendment number 1 to an existing agreement with Prime AEKB Engineering and Architecture PC for professional engineering services related to the leak detection survey for Water District number 5.
Okay, is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Mastriani. Do I
I'll
have-
second it.
Second by Mrs. Galucci.
Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlog?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 243 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To negotiate and execute amendment number 1 to an existing agreement with Barton and LaJudas for professional engineering services for the schematic design phase for the new highway garage.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Schlog. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Mastriani. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlog?
Yes.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 244 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To negotiate and execute a contract with Santor's World of Famous Fireworks LLC and Night Sky Productions LLC.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion? I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mrs. Galucci. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlog?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 245 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
Authorize a stipulation of settlement with Highbridge Development Route 146 LLC.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Mastriani. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Schlog. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent.
I'm
Mr.
sorry, wait a second. On the question.
Sorry.
Okay, now the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlog?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 246 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To recognize the introduction of introductory local law blank of 2024 to amend chapter 270 zoning of the town code relating to the change of zone from agricultural A1 to general business B2 located at 774 and 778 Duanesburg Road and refer to the Planning Commission for the report and recommendation.
Okay, is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Galucci. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Schlog. Clerk, any on the question? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlog?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 247 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To recognize the introduction of introductory local law blank of 2024 to amend chapter 270 zoning of the town code relating to a change of zone from general business B2 to a multifamily residential R3 located at 1725 Tower Street and refer to the Planning Commission for report and recommendation.
Okay, is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
Make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Mastriani. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, let you get the next one. I'll second. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
No.
Mr. Schlog?
Yes.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
So there's 1 absent, 3 yes, and 1 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 248 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To approve budget transfers to the 2024 budget.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Mastriani. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Schlog. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mr. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlog?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 249 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To authorize the purchase of 1 pickup truck for the Highway Department.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Mastriani. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Schlog. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlog?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 250 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To declare lead agency for seeker review for the trunk sewer access improvements project.
Okay. Any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Mastriani. Do I have a second? I'll second. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlog?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 251 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To negotiate and execute an agreement with Barton Judas for professional engineering services for the pump station improvement project, planning and project development services.
Okay, is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Schlag. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mrs. Gulicci. Clerk will call the, oh, I'm sorry, on the question. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 252 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
Call for public hearing for map plan and report for the proposed sewer district number 2, extension 7, number 17, Helderberg Meadows West.
Okay, is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Galucci. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Schlag. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 253 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To declare equipment obsolete.
Okay, is there any discussion? Do I have a motion? I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mrs. Galucci. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 254 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To accept revenue for the town clerk's office for May of 2024.
Is there any discussion? And do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Galucci. Do I have a second? I'll second. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 255 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To recognize the introduction of introductory local law blank of 2024 to establish a demonstration program imposing owner liability for failure of an operator to stop for a school bus displaying a red visual signal and stop arm and calling for a public hearing thereon.
Is there any discussion? There is something I'd like to say. I want to thank Board Member Schlag for working with the police. I put my grandchildren too many times on a bus where when the arm was out, nobody stopped. And they would just whiz around. And I'm so glad that that moved forward so that the children are safe. So thank you for it. Okay. Any other discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Councilman Schlag.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mrs. Galucci. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 256 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To adopt a negative declaration for seeker of the Kiwanis International Park Waterfront Access Improvements Project.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion? I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Schlag. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 257 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
Requesting bids for Town of Rotterdam Water District Number 5 Leak Detection Survey.
Any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I heard Mr. Mastriani first, and Mr. Schlag, are you going to second?
I'll second it.
Okay, good. Any discussion, I'm sorry, on the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 258, we did at the beginning, it was the hiring of the police officer. So we'll be going to Resolution 259 of the year 2024.
To extend the bid contract for grinding and removal of brush, yard waste, and wood with Troy Sand and Gravel Company Incorporated.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Galucci. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I think I heard Mr. Schlag.
Yep.
I had to be at that time. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 260 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To reject all bids for 6.3 millimeter polymer modified hot mix asphalt highway resurfacing and mill and fill with a 6.3 polymer modified hot mix asphalt highway paving.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah.
It's a lot of asphalt.
Any discussion? Do I have a motion? I'll make the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mrs. Galucci on the question. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 261 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
Call for bids for 6.3 millimeter polymer modified hot mix asphalt highway resurfacing number 2024-001.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Galucci. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Schlag. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 262 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
Call for bids for mill and fill with 6.3 polymer modified hot mix asphalt highway paving number 2024-002.
Okay, is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Galucci. Do I have a second? I'll second. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson is absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yeah.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. And the last resolution of the night, Resolution 263 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To schedule a special meeting of the town board.
Okay. And is there any discussion? I would like it noted on the record that it's for July 2nd, okay, at 7 p.m. here at Town Hall. All right. Is there any other discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Galucci. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Mastriani on the question. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson absent. Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution passes. That concludes our resolutions for this evening. We'll now move on to liaison reports. Do any of the board members have anything to say under liaison?
On Saturday at Juraca Park, we will be dedicating the pickleball court that has been redesigned there to Brian McGarry at 10 a.m. Anybody who knows Brian or anybody in Colonial Manor, we invite to attend. And we'll christen the court, play a little bit of pickleball, and we'll honor Brian.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
I think that's wonderful, Joe.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you
is.
for
Thank you.
pulling this together, Ron.
Is there anything that any of the board members have to say under miscellaneous?
So not that I want to extend the meeting any longer, but I do have a couple things. So I won't be long because I do have to go to the bathroom. I don't know if we could take a break, but anyways, a couple things. So I so much appreciate everybody coming out and speaking on all the different topics. It's good to see that level of engagement. I wish if they came for dinner, they would stay for lunch. Or sorry, stay for breakfast. Oh my God. Stay for dessert. I'll get to it eventually. But I just, for the record, I had no idea that there was any type of an improvement that was being looked at for the community center. I think that it's important that we voted on that zoning change. And I'm having a disconnect trying to understand how that zoning change is going to affect what they're doing currently. They can still currently do what they're doing, and if there's an improvement they can make that's, not more than 2 stories, then bring it to the planning board and move forward with whatever plans they are. So whatever plans that would be, for the record. The only other thing I want to say is I'm very frustrated with the fact that the aquatic center was moved and decided to move to Schenectady. I think that would have been a great opportunity. I know Terry and I talked about economic development. That would have been a great opportunity. That's very frustrating, and I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed in the people. Again, it was 2 miles from Schenectady County Community College. We would have welcomed Schenectady County Community College to be part of that aquatic center in our town. I'm very frustrated with the people that voted to move it. The only dissenter was Josh Cuomo. The people from Rotterdam that are born and raised here voted to move it. We have an assemblyman that's from Rotterdam. We haven't heard anything from. So I mean, things like that are frustrating to me, and I think at some point, you know, we have to push back on our elected representatives to do what's best for Rotterdam, to bring things to Rotterdam, and that would have been a great thing to have in Rotterdam. So I'm frustrated with that, and I'm really disappointed in the people from Rotterdam that didn't stand up for their town, regardless of whether it was going to pass or not. It wasn't going to pass, it wasn't going to stay here, but at least stick up for your town. That's all I have.
Is there anyone else who has anything under miscellaneous? Okay, then that concludes our business for tonight. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mrs. Flagg. Do I have
I'll
a
second the motion.
Second by Mrs. Galucci. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.